is August 16, 2015. I think it's almost, I just looked at the clock. Either it's almost 11 at night or it's almost midnight. One of those. Anyway, wanted to talk about, and also let me just say that when I do these, it's usually based on some experience that I just had, because the experience is still fresh enough to be able to communicate the experience of it. And so anyway, it's a few hours ago that I experienced something, and that's what I want to talk about. I think it was Eleanor Roosevelt that said, "No one can make you feel inferior without your permission," or something to that effect. And what we wanted to talk about was kind of along those same lines, sort of, which is it's kind of an infiltration that happens. So if you have an interaction with another person and they're sending out a certain vibration, say, a certain frequency of energy, something, some type of thing. If you, depending on what level you resonate on that frequency, that will decide how you receive that and what happens next, as far as how you receive it, how you respond to it. And but once a person puts something out there, it's almost like a tennis match or something like that. Once they send it your direction, now it's up to you. It's on you if you're going to do anything at all. So that's one illustration. It's kind of like if somebody sends the ball in your direction. But it's more than that, because we're dealing with people and life, interaction, energy, feelings, sensations, and then emotions. So it's not just a matter of hitting a solid object at a person. Unless the object was a bullet, then maybe that would have... No, I don't know. But getting back to the other idea of infiltration, whether or not it becomes an infiltration is on you. Okay, and that's kind of what I think she was talking about. A person will do what they do, but that in no way, shape, or form has to equal what your response will be to it. Okay, you're in full control still, whether or not people like to believe it. People say things like, "I had no choice." Like, in a world of infinite possibilities, there was only one possibility in an instance. And so, but if a person is coming at you with we're just going to say a low vibration just to keep it simple, with a low vibration type energy, which is, I'm going to cut you down, I'm going to make you feel small, which is not true. We're not small. That's the problem with the world today, is that too many people are living an existence where they believe they are small. If people could realize how great, how powerful, how much of creators that we are, things would be moving differently for many people. But so if somebody comes at you with that kind of low frequency energy, that doesn't mean that you have to respond in kind. And if you do, that's because you are already somewhere near that vibration yourself that they're coming to you with, because you just fell right into it, if that makes sense. So this thing that's kind of become popular, I don't know when, or maybe it's just that once I became a preteen, that's when I became aware of it, and it always existed. But this thing that people do, where their body language, the way they look at you, maybe what they say, the whole thing is to deliver a blow to you that says, you're nobody. You can walk past a person, they not say a word, and send that message. If I'm already walking around with that belief, that's just going to join, those two are going to join together now. And in my mind, in my experience, it'll be a confirmation of that. Now, what is real and what is true is relative. In that case, it will be real and it will be true because you already believe that. You create your own, your universe is your creation. And if somebody's coming at you like that and you just can go right with that flow, then that you can't blame the other person for basically calling to your attention that you believe that you're worthless. Okay, so say that again. You can't, because people are always sending out all kinds of vibrations, and not just at you, at everybody. All right, so some people are sending you loving vibrations maybe, but if you are not living on that frequency, then that's not even going to translate to you as what it's coming to you as, because you're not, your frequency of that type of vibration is not very high, so there's not going to be that connection like in the other situation maybe. And so, we're not powerless, but everybody is our teacher. And I've done recordings where people have tried that shit with me. Like dude in the grocery store stuff, trying to bump me with his cart, with my cart rather, and, in that act, and then the words that followed coming from him, it was all designed to, to send a certain message to me, which the reality of it is, it's also, if he was aware, he'd realize it's sending him a message about himself and his perception of the world and his place in it. But those kind of people, you know, for all intents and purposes, he thought he was, going to cut me down to size or something. But in that instance, I'm not always, I don't deal with every situation, quote, perfectly. But in that instance, this isn't even a matter of dealing with something perfectly, but just showing that my vibration at that time was really high. And there was a lot of self-love going on inside of me, and respect, self-respect, and acceptance of maybe parts of myself that are a little slow going, whatever. I was on point in those moments that particular situation went down. So when he came at me like that, had I been on his level, I might have punched that motherfucker in his mouth. Knocked him right out of his little wheelchair cart thing. I don't know what, But because all of the other is what was super high, and these feelings of worthlessness and insecurity and all that kind of stuff was almost non-existent in those moments of that interaction. It didn't do what it would have potentially done. And I was able to squash that real quick, and have some fun with it at the same time. And just kind of turning it around on its side, moving it back toward him, showing him basically a mirror to look at himself in is what I tried to do. Is opportunity. And I'm going to take that opportunity because I like to teach. We're all teachers, but I like to play with situations that look like it has to be a certain way and say, no, we're going to make it a different thing. Because that's kind of my thing. We all have our thing, I like to take a rock and paint it and make it pretty with colors and designs and this and that, whatever. And I like to take situations that look, bleak or dark or hopeless or whatever, to the best of whatever, and try to flip it around, And so that's what I did. And I showed him the mirror of his face and the reaction that he tried to send my way. I just deflected it back at him. And it infuriated him, But we can all. It's just, I think it's kind of just like science, really, when you think of it in those terms, But, earlier, it seemed like it might have been another instance of something like that, but not nearly as pronounced as that dude. But just a situation where somebody was just like, oh, yeah, whatever, kind of thing. And sometimes when it seems like that's what's happening, that's not what's happening. It's just our perception. So probably the kid today, he was just he had something else on his mind and he didn't give me he was just like, oh, yeah, hi, bye, whatever, And so we can't automatically assume that just because a person doesn't give us the time of day, that it means they're being an asshole. Because in the case with the kid today, he might not have been, but whatever. It doesn't even matter because it made me, what it did is it got the wheels turning inside of me to think it through about why people do the things they do and this and that and other. Regardless of today, the situation, it's still, if it hadn't happened, I probably wouldn't do this recording right now. So, and that's, in our existence, a hammer is a hammer. and a hammer, it drives in nails, and then it has the other end that'll pull out the nails, or the screw, or not the screw, but use a screwdriver to unscrew, but it drives in, it pulls out the nails. And that's what it does, that's its function. But in the world of life and interaction and the unfolding of things, and the learning, the coming to awareness of things, things are not concrete like that. Something that could be a doorway to something grand can also perhaps just be, and I say just, but not because it's not as important, but just because, there's not all this hoopla if something is just a stepping stone in a certain direction, but it's still as, equally as important as the opening of a door to some brand new thing that never presented itself before. It's all the same thing because it's all still just moving forward. Some things just cause different sensations. Some things just feel more relevant in our existence and the way we experience them. But the fact is, every ray coming from the sun is important, right? And so all of it's important. If we just kind of don't personalize situations so much, we can see that the connections and the opportunities for growth and awareness and expansion and connection, all those different things, we can see all that instead of boom, boom, boom. The way this world is, this world is very rigid, very rigid. As far as our day-to-day, these structures are so set in place, almost immovable, the way things are designed, so unlike the way the real unfolding of life and experience really works itself out. And that's the other thing too, is it doesn't have limitations. When you're talking about life and experience, the possibilities are limitless. Whereas, we live in a type of existence where I'm trying to think of an example. I can't think of one. Just try to think of a gross misuse of some item, and it's called wrong. But anyway, kind of digress there. Anyway, just that idea of we don't ever want to fool ourselves into thinking we're placed in situations where we have no choice and where the realm of all possibilities ceases to exist, because it doesn't cease to exist, only in our minds, and then it does. So again, it's relative. If you want to live in that kind of world where everything is very limited and closed in, and your choices are limited and all that, well, you're going to do that. And that's what your life is going to reflect all around you. And you're going to probably feel very frustrated in life, even suffocated maybe. But that's a choice. And a lot of people don't like the feeling of, we talked about this like last year, Many people don't like that idea of limitless possibilities. And it just doesn't feel like this place. Doesn't feel secure. Quote, secure. And so we even feel like something that's a solid thing that has a mass that we can measure is more real than something that we can't perceive with our senses. They say, oh, that's not really real. But that's not true at all. It's the farthest thing from the truth. But if you live in a world, if your world, not live in a world because you create your world, if you created a world around you where that's the rules, well then that's what you're going to experience. If you decide to step out into the unknown, which is what all possibility is, that means your mind won't even be able to conceive what that means. You won't even be able to scratch the surface of a few of those possibilities. That's kind of different for us. But if you're willing, then you'll be able to experience life in a different way. And oddly enough, in that, you will be able to realize that one of those possibilities is that you're not limited. You're not limited to have to have a certain response when someone treats you a certain way. See? So you actually give yourself more control and freedom in your own existence with accepting that all is possible type of thing. But anyway, it's not for everyone, I suppose. But if you're the kind of person, this is getting long now, but if you're the kind of person that's feeling like there's just something and you can't put your finger on it, but something doesn't feel right and you feel very, very boxed in your experience of life, then you might want to consider those kind of, those kind of things. Yeah, I know the music is weird, but that's it. It's not my country 'tis of these song. They stole that from there, but we won't hear that anymore. It's like, oh man, it's weird. How can I be okay with the rest of the song, but that very intro, I'm just like, ugh. That awful. You're not an American. That's true. I'm consciousness, experiencing in this existence, being born in this country, and having been born in this country and living in this country and stuff. But anyway, that's all. 24 minutes. So thank you so much for listening. Much love.